Sardines versus mackerel. Which one is actually better for your heart? Two of the most affordable, most nutritious, and most overlooked foods in any grocery store. Both are oily fish. Both come in a can. Both cost less than $2. And both have been praised for their cardiovascular benefits for decades. But when you actually dig into the science and compare them head to head, some real differences emerge. Differences that matter depending on your specific health goals, your age, your risk factors, and how often you plan to eat them. Today we are going head to head. Mackerel versus sardines. Specifically for heart health. We are going to look at omega-3 content, cholesterol impact, blood pressure support, inflammation reduction, and a few other factors that most comparison videos skip entirely. And at the end I am going to give you a clear, honest recommendation based on the evidence rather than just telling you both are great and leaving you where you started. Let us get into it. Round 1. Omega-3 content. The most important factor for heart health. If there is one nutrient that defines the cardiovascular value of oily fish, it is omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. So let us start here. Mackerel wins this round and it is not particularly close. A 100-gram serving of Atlantic mackerel provides approximately 2,500 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA. The same serving of sardines provides around 1,400 to 1,800 milligrams depending on the variety and how they are packed. That means mackerel delivers roughly 40 to 70% more omega-3 per serving than sardines. Why does this gap matter so much for heart health specifically? EPA is the omega-3 most directly associated with cardiovascular protection. It reduces triglycerides in the blood, one of the most reliable markers of heart disease risk. It inhibits platelet aggregation, meaning it makes your blood less likely to form dangerous clots. And it reduces the arterial inflammation that drives atherosclerosis, the process of plaque buildup in artery walls. DHA maintains the structural integrity of heart muscle cells and helps regulate heart rhythm. Low DHA is consistently associated with higher rates of sudden cardiac events in population studies. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American Heart Association found that every 1,000 mg increase in daily EPA and DHA intake was associated with a measurable reduction in cardiovascular mortality risk. The higher your baseline omega-3 intake, the more meaningful that reduction becomes. Both fish deliver meaningful omega-3. But if maximizing cardiovascular omega-3 intake is the primary goal, mackerel has a clear advantage in this round. Round 1 winner. Mackerel. Round 2, cholesterol profile. Which one helps more? Both mackerel and sardines contain dietary cholesterol, which used to concern people far more than the science actually warrants. Modern research is clear that dietary cholesterol has a minimal effect on blood cholesterol for most people. What matters more is the type of fat accompanying that cholesterol. Here's where sardines have a slight edge. Sardines have a marginally lower saturated fat content than mackerel and a slightly higher ratio of polyunsaturated to saturated fat. That ratio is one of the factors most consistently associated with favorable changes in LDL cholesterol, specifically the reduction of small dense LDL particles, which are the most dangerous form. Both fish raise HDL cholesterol, the protective kind, through their omega-3 content. Higher HDL is one of the strongest independent predictors of reduced cardiovascular risk. The difference between the two in this category is small. We are not talking about dramatically different outcomes. But if you have a specific concern about LDL cholesterol and saturated fat intake, sardines have a marginal advantage here. Round 2 winner. Sardines, marginally. Round 3. Blood pressure support. Blood pressure management is one of the most critical factors in long-term heart health. And both of these fish contribute through multiple mechanisms simultaneously. The omega-3 content in both fish improves endothelial function, which is the ability of blood vessel walls to relax and expand when needed. Stiff, poorly functioning endothelium is one of the primary drivers of elevated blood pressure as we age. For mineral content, sardines take a meaningful lead. Sardines are significantly richer in calcium and potassium than mackerel, largely because sardines are typically eaten with their soft edible bones, which are an excellent source of calcium that most people overlook entirely. A single serving of sardines can provide 300 to 400 milligrams of calcium, which plays a direct role in vascular smooth muscle function, helping blood vessel walls contract and relax more efficiently. The potassium in both fish helps the kidneys excrete excess sodium, which directly reduces blood pressure. But sardines provide more potassium per serving on average. For anyone whose primary cardiovascular concern is blood pressure management, sardines have a meaningful advantage in this round. Round 3 winner. Sardines. Round 4, inflammation reduction. Chronic low-grade inflammation is now recognized by most cardiologists as one of the central mechanisms driving cardiovascular disease. It damages arterial walls, promotes plaque formation, and makes existing plaques more likely to rupture, causing heart attacks and strokes. Both fish reduce inflammation through their EPA content. But given mackerel's significantly higher EPA concentration, it has a clear advantage in this round. EPA directly inhibits the COX-2 enzyme pathway, which is one of the primary inflammatory signaling routes in the body. This is actually the same pathway targeted by anti-inflammatory medications like ibuprofen, but EPA achieves this without the gastrointestinal and cardiovascular side effects associated with long-term NSAID use. Studies measuring C-reactive protein, one of the most reliable blood markers of systemic inflammation, consistently show greater reductions in people consuming higher amounts of EPA. Since mackerel delivers substantially more EPA per serving, its anti-inflammatory impact on the cardiovascular system is proportionally stronger. Sardines still provide meaningful anti-inflammatory benefit. But in this specific category, the higher omega-3 load of mackerel gives it a clear edge. Round 4 winner. Mackerel. Round 5, mercury safety and how often you can eat them. This is the round that most directly affects how much cardiovascular benefit you can actually get from each fish in practice, because the best fish for your heart is the one you can eat safely and consistently. Both fish are considered low to moderate in mercury compared to large predatory fish. But there is an important distinction within the mackerel category that most people do not know. Atlantic mackerel and Pacific mackerel have low mercury levels comparable to sardines and are safe for regular consumption, including for pregnant women and older adults with kidney concerns. King mackerel, which is a larger and entirely different species despite sharing the name, has significantly higher mercury levels and should be limited to once a month or avoided entirely by vulnerable populations. Most canned mackerel sold in major supermarkets is Atlantic mackerel. Check the label to confirm. Sardines sit consistently in the lowest mercury category of all commercially available fish. They feed on plankton, have very short lifespans, and simply do not have time to accumulate meaningful amounts of mercury. For anyone who wants to eat oily fish multiple times per week for sustained cardiovascular benefit, both Atlantic mackerel and sardines are safe choices. Sardines have a slight safety margin advantage, making them marginally easier to consume without any concern at any frequency. Round 5 winner. Sardines, marginally. Round 6. Additional heart protective nutrients beyond omega-3. Both fish contain additional nutrients with documented cardiovascular benefits that rarely get mentioned in comparison videos. Mackerel has a meaningful lead in two specific areas. First, vitamin D. Mackerel is one of the richest dietary sources of vitamin D available. Low vitamin D is independently associated with higher rates of heart failure, hypertension, and cardiovascular mortality in multiple large population studies. One serving of mackerel can provide 40 to 60% of the daily recommended intake of vitamin D. Second, coenzyme Q10. Mackerel contains CoQ10, a compound essential for energy production in heart muscle cells. CoQ10 levels decline naturally with age and with the use of statin medications, which are among the most commonly prescribed drugs for cardiovascular risk management. Getting CoQ10 from dietary sources provides a natural way to support heart muscle function, especially for older adults. Sardines counter with their significant calcium content from the edible bones, vitamin B12 in very high concentrations, and slightly more iron per serving. Both fish provide selenium, which protects cardiac cells from oxidative damage, and both provide substantial vitamin B12 for nervous system function that indirectly supports heart rhythm regulation. For overall nutrient density, specifically targeting cardiovascular health, mackerel has a slight edge in this round due to vitamin D and CoQ10. Round 6 winner. Mackerel, marginally, the verdict. Which one should you choose? Let us add up the rounds. Mackerel won omega-3 content by a clear margin. Sardines won cholesterol profile marginally. Sardines won blood pressure support meaningfully. Mackerel won inflammation reduction clearly. Sardines won mercury safety marginally. Mackerel won additional heart nutrients marginally. The honest answer is that both fish are extraordinary for heart health and both belong in a cardiovascular protective diet. But here is how to choose based on your specific situation. Choose mackerel if your primary concern is reducing inflammation and triglycerides, you want maximum omega-3 per serving, or you are managing conditions like high triglycerides or chronic inflammatory disease. Stick to Atlantic or Pacific mackerel, not king mackerel. Choose sardines if blood pressure management is your main cardiovascular concern. You want the absolute lowest mercury option for very frequent consumption. You want to maximize calcium intake without dairy, or you are pregnant or in a vulnerable population where mercury caution is warranted. The ideal approach for most people is not choosing one over the other. Alternating between the two throughout the week gives you the highest omega-3 intake from mackerel, the blood pressure and calcium benefits from sardines, and variety that makes the habit sustainable long-term. 2 to 3 servings of oily fish per week is the amount most cardiology guidelines recommend. Splitting that between mackerel and sardines is a simple and genuinely evidence-based strategy. Mackerel and sardines are 2 of the most underrated foods in any grocery store. Between them they cover almost every nutritional angle of cardiovascular protection at a cost that makes consistent consumption genuinely realistic for almost anyone. The science is not complicated. Eat more oily fish. Alternate between mackerel and sardines. Keep it simple and keep it consistent. If this video helped you make a clearer decision about what to put in your cart this week, share it with someone who is thinking about their heart health. And subscribe, like, comment if you want more evidence-based content like this every week. See you in the next one.